Before you start on the cake, always start on a little piece of parchment on the side to see how it's coming out. See, I don't really have to twist it to keep it from escaping, but I'm twisting it to keep it all forward so that it comes out the tube and stays together without any air spaces. And say we're doing the edge of a cake. The way to do a ball is to keep squeezing and then stop squeezing and circle off. And you use the tip, the edge of the tip, to cut off the tail. But say you get a little tail like that. Have a clean paintbrush that's used only for food standing by, and your bowl of ice water so it won't make it soft, and you can just tap it into place. Here's one more. And again, the buttercream is a bit stiff, so it makes it harder to squeeze, but it softens faster than you may want. And you can use, this is a number 12 tip, you can use a number 5 or a number 3 to make a whole little row of pearls, one right next to the other. Actually, I'm calling them pearls because I have a cake that I call the pearl cake. And that's basically all you need to know about piping with buttercream. You can purchase Ladyfingers, but they are not nearly as ethereal and delicious as homemade. I used to be afraid of piping Ladyfingers, but there are a few tricks that make it so easy you're never going to go any other way again if you watch and try this. One is Wonder Flour. Wonder Flour keeps the ladyfinger batter from spreading sideways, but the other thing is using the right amount of cream of tartar when you beat the egg whites and make the meringue for them. And that's, you're using 1/8 of a teaspoon of cream of tartar per egg white, but that's in the recipe. The rest is all in the technique, and it's really quite simple. I draw 3-inch lines across parchment, spaced about 2 inches apart. And I don't want to pipe on pencil or pen, so I turn it over because I can see it really easily through the parchment. But I want to keep the parchment from moving as I pipe. So I use a little bit of the batter to stick it on all 4 corners. See, now even with 2, it would hardly budge. And this is a 3/4 inch pastry bag. If you want to pipe the ladyfingers separately, you have to leave space between them, but I like them to attach themselves in one long line. So that would mean that you would pipe them 1/4 inch apart if you're using all-purpose flour, but with the Wonder Flour, you would pipe them a little closer together, about 1/8 inch apart. And because it's such a soft, airy batter, you can fill the bag pretty full. And you want to work quickly with this batter because it will deflate. You want the top edge to be as even as possible if you're going to be making a crown around a cake, but the bottom part doesn't matter because that will be trimmed anyway. So see, I'm using my left hand, since I'm right-handed, to support and hold the bag in place, and then squeezing until I get toward the end, and then stop squeezing and bring it forward to cut off the little peak. And as I said, it doesn't really matter since you're going to trim it, but that's how you get the perfect ones. The next one, start a little bit below the line because the thrust of the icing, or rather the thrust of the batter, will carry it forward. And you see how it's going sideways, but if you weren't using the Wonder Flour, it would move sideways a lot more. It would just flow. See, just a little bit further away because it's going to start spreading sideways from the pressure of piping. That's perfect. The more you do it, the better you get at it. But I'm going to stop at 3 because you see the basic technique and tell you the next step. Always have the oven preheated ahead. I like to bake things so they land about in the center of the oven. That means that this is a very low cake, and I'm using the back side of a half-sheet pan because you don't want the sides to come up and deflect the heat and maybe make them less crisp on the top. So it's fine to use the top of it, the back side of it. And this is going to go in the middle of the oven. It takes only about 8 minutes to bake. It's a really quick, it's called a biscuit batter, but spelled like biscuit. It's another French word. Now I'm taking the powdered sugar with a fine sieve and dusting it over the top. And this is what gives that pearled effect that's so pretty on ladyfingers. And usually it starts absorbing pretty quickly, so by the time you've done all 2 rows, you won't see the powdered sugar anymore. That's the trick to getting a beautiful pearled effect. Do a second coating, pretty heavily. There's very little sugar in the batter, so don't worry about making it too sweet. And then when it bakes, it turns golden brown, and they'll be touching, and you'll have 2 long strips of the Ladyfingers.